Hi, welcome to this talk on Takaful in a polycrisis world. So today we'll talk about how is Takaful different than conventional insurance? Then we'll talk about polycrisis and what are some of the polycrisis hot topics right now? And then how can we use Takaful in a polycrisis world? Okay, so I hope this is interesting and useful to you. So as a start, the first question I normally get asked is, Hassan, okay, Takaful, you have all the Islamic words and whatnot, but it really is exactly the same as conventional insurance, correct? The answer is no. In conventional insurance, you focus on profit, guaranteeing benefits and returns. Takaful, it's about working together for success. Now, let me give you two examples. One is a technical, one is religious. So religious, I'm saying religious, not Muslim. I'm Muslim, so I'll give it to you from a Muslim point of view, but I'm confident this is general as well. So from a religious point of view, okay, so if you buy a regular conventional insurance product, it's nothing to do with religion. You pay a premium and you get some benefits. But when you put your money into Takaful, okay, now you're putting your money, donating money into a risk fund. When you donate money into this risk fund, well, what happens? Maybe you don't have any claims. You don't have a car accident. Maybe you don't have a fire in your house. Maybe, don't get hospitalized, whatever the issue is. So in conventional insurance, you could say, okay, I wasted my premium. That's some people say this. But in Takaful, what happens? You donated your money in. Little bits of your premium is being used to pay for all these other people that are having problems. You imagine the religious benefits for you as, you are helping these people. Somebody might be having medical problems. So a little bit of your money is being used towards helping them. Might be used towards somebody that had a car accident or whatever it is. How amazing is that? How much benefits that is every year that you have Takaful. Now, from a technical point of view, practitioners have been working on this thing called IFRS 17. It's beyond the scope of this talk, but long and short, it's a way for people to understand what each company and each country, what the financial statements really should look like. So we're really digging down into what makes Takaful. What makes in this country? How do we give a fair and accurate financial statements for this company and this country? So it's been quite an adventure over the last how many years. But as part of this, it's been talking about real differences, technical differences between Takaful and conventional. Okay, so let me give you a question. A survey. This is for you. So think about the answer. What is more fair to a policyholder, a particular policyholder? So you're buying a product, okay? You're choosing between a conventional insurance participating product and a Takaful product. Which one is more fair to you? Conventional insurance or Takaful? Your answer? People love to say Takaful, but the answer is conventional. Nobody said Takaful was going to be fair to you. Nobody. If people implied that to you, I'm sorry, they were wrong. Why do I say that? I say that because Takaful is about people helping people. Okay? Let's say tomorrow, all of a sudden, we found out about COVID-20. God knows we had enough fun with COVID-19, right? So all of a sudden, it's COVID-20. And for the rest of the year, all sorts of problems with COVID-20. Claims are terrible. All sorts of bad things are happening. But then at the end of the year, the problem is over. Okay? So if you purchase let's say the following year, okay, next year, you're going to buy a product. You might buy conventional. You might buy Takaful, conventional participating product. For a conventional participating product, you don't care what happened this year, right? Even though there's COVID-20 or all these problems happened, you don't care. Nothing to do with you. Your bonuses are not affected. It's not your cohort. It's not your transfer business. Okay? Takaful, it's people helping people. You have to help your brothers. You have to. So what happens? So there's a loss in the risk fund in that year. Okay, so it's a card or an interest-free loan. Okay, so the loan, the shareholders give a loan. The shareholders need to be paid back this loan before anything else happens. So you are not going to get any of your surplus for this next year. It could be a few years because you're going to be helping out your brothers from last year. This is risk, the benefits, not the investment income. Yeah, that's a separate issue. Okay, and it can go the other way as well. Let's say you deserved let's say $100 in surplus. You might not get $100. You might only get $50. The other 50 might be saved aside. Because what happens if something really bad happens next year? People helping people. Okay? And the way to think about Takaful is about managing risks, not taking on risk. You get fees for doing work. So for instance, you're an insurance company. What do? Well, you convince people to buy insurance. That is a lot easier said than done. People don't understand risk management and financial literacy as much as they should. People simply don't understand how amazing and beautiful insurance is. And Takaful, of course. They don't understand that we really need insurance to manage our risks and to succeed in life. You can have all the good luck in the world, but you need to prepare in case you have bad luck. And that's what insurance is for. So at least in developing countries, people don't understand this yet. So part of the work that you do is convincing people, teaching people about risk management and getting them to purchase the right product. Commissions. You also paying claims. It would be nice if, only people that deserved to receive money, receive their benefits, actually applied for a claim, then you wouldn't have to do any work. But that's not reality. Most people don't really understand their products that they purchase. And that goes for actuaries too. Even if you're an actuary and you bring 10 actuaries into a room, okay? Give them a critical illness product. One of those ones you give, if you incur like cancer, heart attack, and there's 50 or 100 different diseases there. You tell me that they can understand each and everything inside their contract. No way. So you need to do that work. You need to be paid a fee for this. And then all the yearly work that you do to manage the business and invest money and all these things. So if you think about Takaful as managing risks and getting paid for this work that you perform, then it's much easier to think about. So let's talk about a typical Malaysian model, unit-linked model. Okay, you have a participant. We call it participant rather than a policyholder because you're participating in a fund. Okay, rather than you're not changing risk from one person to another. You pay a contribution, again, premium, just different ways of saying it. Okay, your money goes to two different places. This isn't all countries and all products, okay? So for instance, Egypt has a different way of doing it. Sudan is sort of the original country, and it looks like Egypt, but they're actually quite different in how they look at things. This is what's called a wakala model, and the same kind of model you'll see in the Middle East, but it's different. The structure is different in the Middle East and Malaysia, and that's just a reality of just the way things have developed. Okay, so you have a wakala fee to pay for your expenses and whatnot. This goes to the operator, and a unit account, savings account. This is your money. Every month or every year or once off, depending on the company, you pay money from the unit account into the risk account. You pay benefits from that account. Okay. For a unit-linked account, this unit account is the value is going to change every day or every week. This might be a non-unit linked product, and it's just every year you declare savings, just like some countries call it deposit administration. Some countries call it universal life, that kind of a product. Okay. Investment profit for this unit linked fund, 100% goes to the participant. It goes back to the fund, unit account. Okay. And then out of the unit account, you would get per policy fees, percentage of value of the fund value fees. There's a lot of ways you can do this. Okay. And again, different companies are different countries are different. For instance, a universal lifestyle product, you would share investment profit, 70-30, 90-10, whatever. In Malaysia, underwriting surplus is shared between the operator and the participant. 50-50 is common, doesn't have to be, but the operator can't get more than the participant. So the participant has to be at least 50%. Okay. And then from an operator's point of view, receives wakala fees, underwriting surplus, and they pay out actual management expenses. Fees for doing work. Okay, so that's about Takaful and whatnot. So what is a polycrisis? A polycrisis there are multiple crises hitting at the same time. And there's a few different topics which are sort of hot in the industry right now, Malaysian industry, but global really. Climate change. Everyone's talking about climate change. Climate change is complicated. It affects many different things at the same time. So a polycrisis. In Malaysia, and again, many other countries, medical cost inflation is a problem in the insurance world. And again, this is a polycrisis. The last one is a little bit less intuitive, but it's also there. B40. B40 is the Malaysian terminology. It means bottom 40% of wage earners. We cut the whole country into three categories. B40, bottom 40% of incomes. The M40, the middle 40% of people and their incomes, and the T20, the top 20%. Okay, so let's talk about climate change. So this could be droughts, wildfires, crop failures. There's a lot involved here. So in Malaysia, one thing which happened some years ago was Indonesian forest fires. When these forest fires hit, the Malaysian air quality was terrible. It really affected us very, very heavily. So as part of this, many things happened. So air quality became terrible. That affects health claims. So that's one aspect. Well, climate change also affects asset values, certain types of assets. It affects insurance payouts, but it's also going to affect product design and pricing. Insurance companies are not going to willingly lose money. They want to manage their risks appropriately. So as you see challenges and problems with climate change, product design and pricing will also change. Now, one important thing to also point out in another type of risk is if crop risks are included, this can become very much a political and a national issue. So for instance, in Malaysia, the rice paddy, rice is a very important crop for us. So not too long back, there was a little bit of a problem with rice production. So our thinking was, okay, we're right next to Malaysia. So, we're right next to Thailand. So because we're next to Thailand, we'll just buy rice from Thailand if something went wrong. Doesn't work like that. Thailand has to take care of their own country. So in reality, there is a real problem. If crops are at risk, this is a serious risk, political and national. Okay, so you can see that there's a lot of different things going on at the same time. Medical cost inflation is another one. So here we have rising medical costs. Increasing medical insurance premiums is one thing that happens. Okay, and so you might ask, so what is the reason for this rising medical costs? I mean, Actual Partners did a big study for the Life Insurance Association here to talk about, to really research what are the causes of rising medical inflation. And there's a lot involved, actually. It's easier. So you can't pinpoint it to one thing, but there's a lot of private hospitals here. Private hospitals each want one of everything, one of each type of, fancy new machine. But, you might not need so many of these fancy machines in one city. And that just naturally leads to hospitals overusing it, increasing costs, all sorts of things. Even in my own life, when I went for an operation, the doctor was very clever. The doctor said to me, okay, you have a product with happening to be Prudential. I've got insurance with Prudential. So they said, okay, you have insurance with Prudential. This is what they'll cover for you. So these are the tests that we'll be doing. I was like, okay, hold on, time out. What do I need? Are you skipping an important test because it's not covered by Prudential? Or if I don't actually need all these extra prodding and probing, but you're just going to do it for the sake of doing it because, the insurance company will cover it, I'm not thrilled with that either. But anyway, that's a real example. Now, when in Malaysia, a lot of these medical products are sold via, it's called unit linked. So you have savings and you have coverage. So the coverage is death protection, of course, but a lot of the coverage is for medical expenses. It's sold to the middle class because the middle class, they want to go to the private medical centers, but they can't afford it right on, one big hit. So they'll buy the insurance. So they pay. It's like pre-funding. You pay regularly, and then as and when you have a need, then you can go to the hospital. Okay, so the problem here is that the cost of this medical coverage keeps increasing and increasing. The policyholder tends to pay the same total premium rate, but less and less money is going towards savings. So people purchase a product thinking they're going to get this nice, amount of money at retirement, and there's a good chance it's not going to be there. So it's not just a medical expense problem. There's a lot involved here. And then again, the middle class are the class which is going to be especially affected by this. And again, this leads to political pressure. Okay, so B40, is this a polycrisis? So when it comes to B40, I run an NGO in Negeri Sembilan. We help the needy. We give them food and all sorts of care and whatnot. So as part of that, I tend to do quite a bit of interactions with the B40, the lower income people. So you have a lot of unmet insurance needs. As and when they have these unmet needs, they fall into poverty because at the lower level, the government takes very good care of the people. For instance, you go to a government hospital, it's basically for free, but you need to pay for parts. Those parts are not free. Okay, so that's where you got costs. And then those same doctors, you can wait in line for your turn to get this surgery. It could be a very long wait, or you can go in the evenings, but you have to pay private fees, private hospital fees. And this is a way to keep the good doctors in government hospitals, so they can still earn their extra income by doing these evening surgeries. But this costs money, so the B40 still have needs, and by not covering these needs, they fall into poverty. As is poverty, there's labor shortages, and this causes political risk. So again, there's multiple things involved. Okay, so I've given you enough theory. Let's talk about some particular cases. So this was a particular project that Exero Partners had done. We worked with an NGO in Sabah to deal with the threat of elephant incursions. So a fascinating project to learn about how elephants behave and, what are the risks involved. Okay, and we're talking about is about 35,000 smallholders. So it's not a small group of people. And these are basically indigenous people, orang asli in our language. And they are B40, very much B40. Okay. So what are the challenges for these small plantation owners? Well, the problem is they don't have a ton of trees. So they're smallholders. But those trees that they have, they plant seedlings. For the first 3 years or so, it doesn't give fruit. And you have to really care for these trees. After these trees become giving off fruit, then you can harvest this twice a month for 15 years or more. So this is a really valuable thing to them. So what's the problem? Well, it turns out the roots of these palm oil trees are delicious. For an elephant. They love the taste of these trees, of these roots. So they have a great time pulling the roots out, pulling the tree out of the roots, and then having a feast. So, of course, this is a huge problem for smallholders. The huge plantation owners, of course, they'll have their fences and all these different things. But the smallholders might not have the same level of risk management. Even when you have risk management, elephants are very smart creatures. I have been nothing but impressed by, these interactions in developing this project. For instance, we suggested to them, okay, just have an electric fence. Problem solved. No, not problem solved. The elephants, no, they take a tree branch, they dump it over the electric fence, making it so they can walk over the electric fence, and then they go have a nice feast. Disease is another issue, drought, and other risks. Other risks is more like boy elephants. You got male elephants and female elephants. Female elephants tend to go in very large groups of a large pack. So if a pack of female elephants wander into your plantation, you're in trouble. They love to eat. The ladies love to eat. So there'll be a large number of them. They'll eat. By the time morning comes, you're in big trouble. The men tend to go just in groups of a couple elephants, but they really want to toughen their bodies to look macho for the ladies. So they'll knock over your car, they'll push over the barn, they'll cause all sorts of property damage. So there's a number of different risks here. So this really is a polycrisis. Okay, so let me give you some actuarial secrets. Okay, so if you're not an actuary, don't tell the actuaries that I'm giving you these secrets. Okay, whenever we're designing or pricing a product, okay, there's different pieces to this premium rate. You have expenses, of course, you got commissions, you got profit and whatnot, but the big one is going to be the benefit cost. Okay, now the benefit cost are two pieces. You have frequency, severity. So whatever the frequency or the probability of a risk happening, multiply by how bad the loss could be. Okay, actuaries love high frequency, low severity events because that means you have the event happens a lot. You got a lot of data. We love data. Actuaries love data. So you're getting a lot of data, and it's easy for us to develop a premium rate. Okay, unfortunately, the premiums tend to be quite expensive. So the B40 cannot really take advantage of these kind of products. For instance, for medical, it tends to be private medical care. So you get room and board in a private medical center. Actually, room and board is, it's a very known cost. You don't need, it's a big part of your total premium. You don't really have to pay it. You don't really need coverage for your room and board. But it's a nice high frequency event. It makes the premiums quite stable. We like it. It's an actuarial need. Unfortunately, for the B40, those low frequency events, they don't happen that often. But when they happen, it can be quite severe on them. So this is what the B40 need. And this is the challenge. It's in total opposite of what the actuary needs. Okay, so when we talk about, products for the B40 and this elephant product, we're still thinking about the same elephant product. We need the premium rate to be affordable. Now, understand carefully. I said affordable, not cheap. It's not the same. You can have a cheap premium rate, but it might not be affordable. For instance, I was working with a marketing guy. We were developing a product, and he says, let's make personal accident. Personal accident is cheap, and it's a lottery product. I was like, okay, what is a lottery product? I've never heard of a lottery product. Yeah, you can almost never claim for these products. But if you can claim, it's like you won the lottery. All right. But if you can never actually claim for the product, then, people are not going to find this product to be useful and necessary. So they might buy it for 1 or 2 years, but it's not going to be a long-term solution. It should be affordable. Okay. What does that mean? We need the benefits to be as high a percentage of the total premium as possible. For instance, we would like to have the premiums to be, say, 60 to 70%. Sorry, the benefits you pay out to be 60 to 70% of the premium. That's giving out a lot of the premium they pay is going back towards paying benefits. Maybe not them, but to somebody. So that is a very valuable coverage. To do that, we need to make sure our marketing expenses are very low. So for instance, this elephant product, we had to make sure we're not going to have a nationwide campaign and television ads and everything. No, we need to make sure that we get to the groups that work with these plantation owners. And there's a few different groups that actually work with them regularly. So we work with them, so they don't need a lot of, it's not expensive for them to actually interact with these smallholders. We need fair commissions. And again, If we work with people that are already interacting with smallholders, then we can give them a fair commission and they'll be happy. If we're trying to pay somebody specially to market and sell to these smallholders, we have to pay a much higher commission. Okay. And then keep management expenses as low as possible, meaning how do we do our claims review and things like that? And there's still things we can do. So a big key here is we need to either price as close to best estimate as possible or use Takaful. So what do I mean by close to best estimate? Now remember, if you have a high frequency product, we have a lot of data, a lot of statistics. If I think my best estimate, I think claims are going to be 60 ringgit, I can just load 60 ringgit, maybe 61 ringgit, a little bit of padding, but it's basically going to be very close to what I honestly think the payout's going to be. On the other hand, if it's elephant incursions, which don't happen every day or every year, it's going to be a lot more volatile. So I'm never going to price at 60, most insurance companies. We're going to price at 70 or 80 or 90 or 100. And what does that do? That makes the premium less affordable because people, first of all, the premium rates become high, but just as importantly, people don't see the value because they don't get much out of this because we had to be conservative. We need to protect the shareholders in addition to protecting policyholders. Okay, so I've gone quite a bit in terms of the issues and stuff, but what about Takaful? Okay, we just said that we need to price conservatively, right? So that doesn't change if you got Takaful. You still need to price conservatively. But what's the secret? Well, the secret is as and when you have extra money there, and you will because you price conservatively, all of this extra money goes back to the participant. So for instance, we can work with a group rather than individuals. So this group is told straight off, these premium rates are a little bit expensive, but I'm going to give you back 100% of the extra. We're building a fund. The claims are going to come from this fund. We'll work with you to make sure the right claims are being paid. Anything extra goes back to you. You can use it for education. You can use it for research. You can use it for, a big party at the end of the year. You can use it for education for the children of your people of your group, whatever you want. And then also include value-added services. So for instance, this product that we were developing, instead of paying out cash, we would pay out seedlings, another tree. But instead of being the same old seedling, it's going to be a much better quality seedling. So when it becomes fruiting, they'll get more money out of this. Okay, so that was the elephant and whatnot. Other products, you could have this medical. Remember we talked about medical, and I said the B40, they still have medical needs for parts in the evening operation. So can we develop a product for this? Yes, of course we can. We still need to price it conservatively, but we can sell via groups. And again, 100% goes back. Okay. And then in the NGO work that I do, a particular challenge we face is with women and the problem that women face. I mean, working ladies have 101 challenges, of course, compared to men. But in the B40, it can be so much worse. And one of the problems we face with the B40 is that if they have a lot of children, a lot of times the lady won't work. The lady is a housewife, which is fine. But with only one set of income, as soon as the guy decides to divorce or go somewhere else, if something happens to him and he can't work, whatever it is, this becomes a hell of a problem. So in this sense, if we can develop a infrastructure where ladies working from home, they can cooking, sewing, childcare, making other things, and an infrastructure which can support them. In Malaysia, we had COVID-19 not too long back. Do you remember the first couple of months after COVID? During COVID, we were dying, right? It's like the Hunger Games when we were leaving the house. May the odds ever be in your favor. That was what life was like. But what happened really quickly? Within a couple of months, WhatsApp groups sprung out. Each neighborhood would have their own WhatsApp group. And all of a sudden, people be selling chicken, selling anything you could think of, they were selling via these WhatsApp groups. So no worries. What do you want? We'll sell it online. It'll make its way to you. But what's the fatal flaw? Is it all stays within that group of people. The upper class people have money. They're selling amongst themselves, middle class. But then the B40, this is the problem. Their group doesn't have money. So we need an infrastructure, for instance, an app which will connect people that need services with people that can give services. Once we do this, then we can develop coverage for all of these new risks. So by doing this, it's a B40 focused product. We're really helping women value-added services and giving them the protection that they need. And we can sell this via women leaders in low-cost flats. I mean, my own personal experience is that there can be B40 or poor people throughout the country, of course, but there's really a concentration amongst inside these low-cost flats. So with this concentration, we can much more easily access these people. And then we have these, sometimes officially a man will be the leader, but they'll be like the wife or whatever. They're really the ones in charge because the guy's out working all day. He comes back at night, but she's around all day. And my experience has been quite a number of them have been very socially minded, helping the people in their area. So we can really work with them. Okay, so last example here is, how about using Takaful to cover people with diabetes? Okay, so again, let's talk about Malaysia for a minute. So 3.9 million adult Malaysians, 18% have diabetes from the health minister. This is quite recently, so I think it was 2023, but anyway, this varies by state. Over 32% in Perlis, over 25% in Pahang, almost 25% in Kedah. That's a lot of people with diabetes. By the year 2025, it's predicted that 7 million adult Malaysians are expected to have diabetes. Well, what's the issue? Well, if you already have diabetes, it can be quite difficult to get insurance. But unlike, if you have like stage 4 cancer, you have to put your life in order. You know what's going to happen. Maybe not tomorrow, but you know it's going to happen. But if you have diabetes, you have every intention of living a long and healthy life. It might not happen that way, but you still intend on living a long life. You still have dependents which need you. So you need insurance. So this is really a problem. Okay, so what do? Well, we have a participant. He pays a contribution. It goes into a diabetes fund. This fund will be managed by maybe the Diabetes Association in Malaysia, whatever is relevant in your own country, in your own market, and whatever need you're looking at, okay? But because this association still has to go and, send brochures, send emails, convince people to buy this product, right? This association is going to be a very trusted source. So, they won't have to work as hard as other agents, but there's still costs. You also need to have a wakala fee for either a TPA if they're just going to be managing this business, or a Takaful operator to run this. Each country is going to be different. Sometimes there's certain things you can do in some countries you can't do in other countries. So you get the idea. Benefits are paid from this diabetes fund. The surplus, all of it goes back to the Diabetes Association for its members. Okay, so you can see how this is truly adding value towards this Diabetes Association. You're getting them benefits that they truly need. You are giving them a fairly conservative premium rate contribution, but as and when there's extra, it goes right back, whether it's education, research, whether it's going back, whatever you want to use it for, but it's going back to the association. It's not money which is lost. Now, we need to keep our eyes on the prize whenever we're designing these kind of Takaful products. Our goal is not to pay out lots of benefits. No, we want people to manage their own risks, right? So if you manage your risk, meaning if you need to take, for instance, diabetes, yeah? So you need to take injections. You do your injections every day. You change the needle every day. In my work with the NGO, that's the things that are going to be the death of me is the people with diabetes, because these needles are not free. These needles can be quite expensive. So a lot of times they won't change the needle for months on end, which is really a terrible risk, especially for somebody with diabetes. So manage your risk. Prove your sincerity. Hop onto an app. Sign off that you've just done your shots or taken your pills, whatever's relevant. Have the same app can have all sorts of resources for people. If you have managed your risks, if you prove your sincerity, now you get Takaful coverage, because anything can happen, especially with diabetes. It just takes one simple cut somewhere, and for a normal person, you don't think about it. For somebody with diabetes, it can be a big problem. So we want to help people to remain healthy, not pay out claims. So we're really helping to manage the diabetes risk. And this is where we're adding value. We're managing helping them to manage their risk. Then we're giving this coverage. Okay. And this is exactly where, for instance, the Diabetes Association, they would love it if we're developing an app which will help their members to manage their risks. And this could be anything. Any kind of mental health is another one. There's so many different examples here of things that you can create. The question is, what do you have a passion for? You can create this. And of course, actuarial partners, we can help you. Of course, we can help you. Okay. So in elephant insurance, the example that I'd given, large users of palm oil have a vested interest in smallholders having good sustainable farming practices. Just Google Malaysia palm oil. You'll find all sorts of unpleasant comments from people outside Malaysia as to what they think of Malaysia. So it has a very bad reputation. So, but they need the Malaysian palm oil. So they have a vested interest in these sustainable practices. So in these users, large users, they have a lot of NGOs in, spending money to work on these improving processes. So can we subsidize the premiums? Can they give a subsidy? In return, the smallholders follow certain practices. Win-win. They're managing their risk, they're having sustainable practices, and they're getting coverage. More generally is the agricultural industry as a whole. In Malaysia anyway, the industry is used to handouts. We need a structure where we're encouraging proper risk management. If you are managing your risks properly and minimizing the amount of losses, the reward could be government helping out with some of the premium payments. Okay? Public-private partnerships. Okay, so just to conclude, we're living in a world, there's a lot more polycrisis now than ever before. These are volatile risks, unknown risks, which can be very expensive to insure because we just don't have a lot of data right now. We can use Takaful to ensure that people who really need coverage can afford it. This really is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more here. Go on to our learning platform, actualpartnerslearning.com, to learn more about Takaful as well as IFRS 17 and other courses. Happy to add value if possible. And you can always email me or get onto my LinkedIn and to discuss. Okay? So thank you very much.